Hello YouTube. We're going to do the next in our series on restoring and putting my friend Randy's Boy Scout knife back together. This is what he sent it in, so I keep all the parts in here when I'm not working on it, that way nothing gets lost. And today I'm going to discuss fitting the handle scales. If you have a single bolster, then it's not quite as hard, but with a double bolster, one on each end, there's a couple things that you need to be aware of. On this one, if you look, you will see that we have small holes here and here to actually pin these scales on. They're rarely glued on a knife like this. There's not much need for it since you have these two holes specifically to hold them on, and then of course the center pin for your spring also anchors them. So I want to cover some gotchas today and kind of give you an idea of how I fit these. Now I use just a standard set of calipers if you have them. If you don't, this is a tool that if you want to mess with pocket knives at all, you really should buy. They're not expensive. You can get one from Home Depot like this General. Not really expensive, but they will do the job. So we've already cleaned everything, and this is ready for reassembly. We're going to get a good measurement here. Make sure this is flat, and I'll lock it in so that it can't move. And I'm going to look at this scale, and I'm going to make sure that it's flat and not bowed, and I'll explain why in just a second. When people fit these, of course, they want this line to be extremely well fit and extremely tight. So when they cut their scales down to fit, they will cut them a little oversized and then start trying to force them in here to make them fit. And when they get where they can just force them in there, they'll figure that's good enough. They'll get a really nice tight fit. When they put the rivets in, pin everything together, in reality what will happen is if you have it too much in here, you will bow this like this. And when you put it together, this bone, wood, anything else is really strong in compression this way. You're not really going to move it, especially since it's pinned in 3 places. So rather than sucking it down, you're going to end up with a bowed out place in the center here where the spring should sit flush. So, you know, don't be tempted to get it overly tight. I like to take my measurement and then I'll cut my material down. In this case we're using this stag, and get it close, and then I'll take it down with sandpaper, files, whatever it takes, being very careful to keep my ends square and flat. Some people will cut it on an angle. Use this, maybe you can see it better. They'll cut it on an angle this way. That's obviously extreme, but You get the idea. Instead of being flat and square, they'll do this, and then they can kind of push it down in there and snug it up that way. The problem is when you go to sand down the end, if you go just past the top of that where it's fit nicely on that angle, you're going to get a gap, and that's never going to get better. It's only going to get worse. And if you have it too far this way, then the opposite is going to happen. It'll fit on the bottom, but you'll have a built-in gap there. So you want to keep that flat and at 90 degrees. Now, if I were putting wood scales in here, this wouldn't be a concern, but with any natural material, you need to look at the material itself. Now, if you look at this bone, if I can hold it where you can get a good look at it there, you'll see that it's thin in the middle and gets thicker on each end. Now, some people, and I've marked it out here so you can see, they might slap that on there, take their measurement, and then cut this off. But what you want to do is have it where these ends will look pretty much the same. So what I like to do is center it up so that I'm taking however much I need to take off from each end, and by doing that I can keep these ends a little bit closer, get rid of this big lump and this lump, so when I sand these down, this will be a lot more even. So what I use is I have a very fine tooth Japanese type saw that cuts on the pull stroke. It's made by Marbles. Again, Home Depot, not very expensive, but this saw is really great. I'm really impressed with it. Ultra thin, just kind of disappears, so you can get very fine curve cuts with it. Now I have this homemade miter box. Doesn't look like much, but it is flat and square, and this is a true 90-degree angle. So I always get straight cuts, and I'll put it in my box, and you know, just come down in here, making sure I'm lined up where I need to be, and then I can hold this on this edge, and it only cuts on the pull stroke, so it's not going to move and jerk around and mess up on me. It works pretty good for wood, bone, things like that. And that way I end up with nice flush cuts on each end. I'll cut it, like I said, just a hair long, and then I will sneak it down until it just sinks down in there, paying careful attention that I'm not bowing this out like this, that it's snug, but it's fitting flush. And that way when I pin this up, all of that across the back with the back springs will be nice and flat and flush. So on our next, by the time you see the next episode, I will have cut these and fit them, and we will go from there. May try to show you fitting the shield in. I'm still debating whether to send that up to my friend Jeremy, who has a very precise way to do that, and if I do, I'll ask him to try and shoot it if he can. He does have a YouTube channel, and I'll see if he will kindly film that. But so that'll be our next thing. Once these are cut to size, fit in here, I can drill, mark and drill my holes to the appropriate size. And like I say, most people don't glue this on. You can if you want to with I've seen people use epoxy or super glue. Traditionally, you wouldn't use anything with 3 pins holding it. There's not much chance it's going to come off. And if you ever wanted to change it for something else, if the stag would curl up or something would be, wrong with it, at least you can get it back off. So I prefer not to. And that's kind of my little setup for this. And my one thing that I would tell you to really watch for when you fit these, you want it 90 degrees flush, not too long, where it's pushing it down, where it's nice and flat, and you're going to get a really good fit up in here. So on our next video, depending on how I do the shield, I will either show you that, or I will see if Jeremy will do it, and then we'll be ready to reassemble this knife. We'll pin the scales on, and there are a couple gotchas to that, which I'll show you at that time, and that'll be our next step. So take it easy, everyone. Hope you have a good weekend. This is Saturday morning, and hope you enjoy it, and we'll talk to you soon.